Since 2003, this is the Sports Source, East Tennessee's #1 sports talk show.
Presented by Pipe Wrench, Junk Be Gone, and the Garza Law Firm.
With your host, John Pennington. The Sports Source starts now.
Good Sunday morning and welcome into the Paper Be Gone studios here for the Sports Source. We're happy to have you join us. We're in our 20th year and all that's possible only because of you taking care of our sponsors and our sponsors taking care of us. So thank you very much right off the gate. We got a good show today. We're going to talk a little baseball, a little softball, basketball, tons of football. A recruiting analyst took a look at Nico Iamaleava and said he may take a year or two once he gets on campus. Is that really possible, considering the deal that he has? And also, Tennessee schedule. They ducked out of a game with BYU this week. The spin was that BYU was happy to cancel. I spoke to somebody who covers BYU that said, oh no, no, they'd adjusted their schedule the week before. So we'll get into Tennessee scheduling. Are the fans getting their money worth when ticket prices are going up for some people? When people are trying to keep you from watching on TV, are you getting enough good games to make you want to go to these things? We'll debate that. Let's just get right into it. Our first segment is brought to you by our friends at the Garza Law Firm. No one wants to need an attorney. If you need an attorney, you're probably in a very stressful situation. Help calm the situation. Call an attorney who knows East Tennessee and the East Tennessee court system. Marcos Garza and the Garza Law Firm are local, right here for years and years, proven track record, big part of the community. They will take care of you. Marcos Garza is the guy to call. GarzaLaw.com is where you need to go to learn more about this fine, fine law firm, the Garza Law Firm. All right, let's welcome in our panel for the day. We have longtime sports writer, media member here in East Tennessee, and now you're known for the Sports Source. Sorry, after 20 years. Bob Hodge, thank you for joining us. From 99.1 The Sports Animal, we have Vince Ferrara right there. And next to him, not only from 99.1 The Sports Animal, but also recently elected into the Greater Knoxville Sports Hall of Fame, Jimmy Hine.
Hey.
Jimmy, some of you, I've worked with you for doing TV and radio since '95 now, so which is crazy. Some of these guys have worked with you longer than that. There's nobody more deserving in terms of somebody who puts the work in and cares about the job they do. So it's a good honor that you deserve.
I think there's a hanging chair they're still waiting to see if
Congratulations.
Or at least a butt.
And then down there, Chuck Cavaleris, who last summer elected himself into
That's right.
the Cavaleris Hall of Fame. Chuck, thanks for joining.
And it was a close vote, let me tell you.
Thanks for being here, Chuck. Nico Iamaleava was in Nashville last weekend as part of the Elite 11 quarterback competition. He's, of course, a five-star quarterback who everyone believes inked a deal with Spire Sports that's worth $8 million in NIL money over his first 3 years at Tennessee. Cooper Patagna, it's either Patagna, I'm guessing it's Patagna. Ferrara, what do you think?
I call the family.
All right. A national recruiting analyst for 24/7 Sports. He was there to watch him and review, and his review was interesting. According to Ryan Callahan, and let's go ahead and put up the graphic here so we'll step you through it. According to Ryan Callahan, who's of course on our show and with GoVols247.com, the analyst said there's a lot to like, but fans expecting him to make an immediate impact for the Vols next year would be wise not to temper long-term expectations, but short-term expectations. He also went on to say, it's kind of like you can look at the glass half full or half empty, especially if you're a Tennessee fan. Then, here you have this raw, developmental, really promising prospect who is yet to scratch the surface of his potential, but that's what he is doing right now, and that's kind of indicative of where he is in his development. I think he's got a long way to go in terms of his footwork and his lower body mechanics. So I think for those people out there that are expecting Nico to come in day one and really have that type of impact, I thought Sunday was a splash of cold water. And then I do think at least a year under his belt could certainly benefit him, at least a year under his belt. Now, I want to make it very clear, this guy's review was this long. And it was very much, he's got great potential, but there's no reason to get down on him, but. So it's not you've hooked your wagon to a bad horse. It was simply, he's not ready for the Derby yet, and it may take a year or two. Okay, I don't know how many people around here had heard that before. It's one guy's opinion. But my question is, let's assume that's correct. If he's getting the kind of money that everyone believes he's getting, NIL-wise, and you're Josh Heupel, and people have bought him for you, can you sit him for a year or two? Are fans going to patiently wait while the savior, the prize recruit, sits on the bench? That's my question. If this guy's right, what's the reaction around town with Nico Iamaleava? If he's not ready, do you have to just put him out there because of who he is and what's been spent on him?
Well, we're talking NIL, but it sounds more like NFL. Draft a quarterback in the first round. Do you get the luxury of setting your first round draft pick, or do you go ahead and play him because you drafted him for a reason? I'm gonna go with, can he set? If he's not ready, he had better set, because to get back to the NFL conversation, how many rookies are ruined because, well, we got to play him. Drafted number 3 overall, got to play him. So can he set? I'm going to go with a tentative yes.
Well, I say he can and should be sat if he needs it, and your best option is to have him develop. But everything in NIL is just adding different layers for fans to get more upset about everything happening, whether it's the kid, whether it's the school, whether it's collectives, all that. Just more things to gripe about. So yes, there will be the fan expectation of him playing. Where is he? Why isn't he playing? But if you have a better option and you can still win games, I think that will calm that down and you can get by. This is kind of a new experiment too, in that NFL-like pressure. So we don't just automatically have to jump in. Yes, we have to do this like a first-round pick. I think we got to see how some of this plays out.
I do too, and I'm kind of in the same camp as you guys. You don't have to play him, but here's what some of that'll depend on. Let's say it's Tavion Jackson. How good is Jackson playing? If he's struggling, then you'll have more clamoring for Nico. If he's not, but I also look at the NFL, the example that Bob gave. Heck, there was a quarterback at New England named Drew Bledsoe making a whole ton of money, high draft pick. Tom Brady comes in after he's injured, and Bledsoe doesn't get the job back. And I know there was an injury that led to that, but the point is Brady was out playing a guy, or they felt like, who was making a whole lot more money. So I think that could very well be the situation. Here's the other thing, too. If you're paying Nico $2 million, I wonder what the booster that fronted all that money's thinking, too.
Bingo. That's you guys are saying, in theory, you're right. If he needs to be sat, you sit him. Well, if you're the guy if you're one of the ones who spent all this money, if you're Spire Sports, and I'm not trying to disparage Spire Sports. I don't know if they would be the ones, but they're the collective, so they would be representing people who might say, hey, we bought you this guy. I just keep going back to J.T. Walsh character in that horrible movie Blue Chips. It's like, hey, I bought you the players, Nick Nolte. Get them out there and play them. You're getting into a world where that's a possibility, especially if you get a guy who has the biggest NIL deal, according to The Athletic, than anybody's seen so far, and you've got him on the bench. And part of the money he's going to be making is because he's out doing fan engagement things. Well, if he's in his second year and he's backup quarterback,
who's going to show up for that?
Show up for a fan engagement thing. Chuck, your thoughts on this? Can you sit the guy?
Well, I think you almost have to. I mean, what happens the first time boos cascade down in Neyland Stadium? I mean, if he is not able to perform at the level someone needs to at that position to help you win football games, then I think that's going to show itself. And I think that review or those remarks, I would not be all that surprised that he does need some developing, especially physically, you know. So,
I mean, he is a skinny guy.
So,
and he's only started 13 games. Now, he'll get more games this fall, but
exactly.
You know, he's raw, as that guy said.
Yeah, but it's going to be interesting as we go, maybe see more video of him actually playing and get a little bit more to base it on than what somebody else says. But I like what he said in that review. So I think you have to. And I think Josh Heupel, as a former quarterback, even though he didn't pick the right one to start last season, is going to go with somebody that's, you know, that he thinks is going to give him the best chance to win games.
It totally comes down to
very interesting bringing that up, though.
This totally
2 weeks in a row. What's going on?
He's a Hall of Famer in the
Cavaliers Hall of Fame.
But this totally comes down to wins and losses, right? If Tennessee's still winning games with Jackson or anyone else, then it's okay. Then the booster being upset, then they don't really have a voice or leg to stand on at the moment. You lose ball games, then that's when it gets loud.
Or you
I'll
don't
give-
perform well. I think it's not just winning.
Well,
I'll give you, look, Eric Ainge, who you guys work with, really good as a freshman, won that job over Brent Schaefer. Sophomore year, he would admit, it was a bad year. It went backwards on him. Cutcliffe comes in here and fixes him. He's good. As a junior, as a senior, putting up great numbers. We did phone calls for a year on this show, and I finally ditched them. And the reason was, every week, the first call was, why aren't we seeing Crompton? Where's Crompton? Ainge is throwing for, and Pat Ryan, who was on the show at the time, would get kind of angry with it. It's like, he's throwing for 300 yards. Why are you calling for the backup?
Right.
But that worries me. I mean, and Crompton was just this overhyped recruit. He wasn't making $8 million on top of it.
Well, and you can also go, even though they weren't calling for a backup, so to speak, go to the Josh Dobbs experience. As good as Josh Dobbs was, and maybe I think he was better than a lot of other people do. I think Josh Dobbs was nothing short of great.
Yeah.
People still didn't like him.
There were a lot of people that complained he can't throw the deep ball.
Exactly. So when
famous for
you couple that quarterback never is quite good enough, unless it's Peyton Manning, I guess. I just think that this is going to be a brave new world.
Yeah.
It's a new dynamic, you know. And I wrote down, John, haven't we been down this road a little bit with Harrison Bailey? Wasn't he going to be the salvation? And then, oh boy, that's
People saw him
not
for
quite.
2 games and it was enough.
And even Jared Garantano, when he does his signing at Times Square, and you're thinking, hey, this is the guy. He's the number 2 dual threat quarterback in the country. And that wasn't all that.
Well, another element is kind of your point. How much do we see him? Even if he doesn't start, if he doesn't play, at least like some series, things like that, to kind of ease him in, are fans going to be upset that we're not at least seeing him to some degree if Heupel thinks we're not going to do that right now? And so there's a lot of dynamics to it.
We're already 3 minutes over. You can go find that story at GoVols247.com. They have that, the review from the analysts. Look up Ryan Callahan's stuff. Our buddy Ryan wrote about it. You can read all that cat's takes on it. All right, when we come back, Rick Barnes keeps adding to the basketball program. I've seen Tennessee football now and Tennessee basketball both projected top 15 this year. So who has the better season ahead? Come on back on the Sports Source.